In this video, I'm going to talk about how to prove trig identities. First, let's talk about some trig identities that we should know. You should know secant x is equal to 1 over cosine x. Cosecant x is equal to 1 over sine x. Tangent x is equal to sine x over cosine x. Sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. Secant squared x minus tangent squared x is equal to 1. And cosecant squared x minus cotangent squared x is equal to 1. Alright, so let's take a look at this trig identity. You want to prove that cosine x over 1 plus sine x plus 1 plus sine x over cosine x is equal to 2 secant x. So if I see two fractions in the trig identity, I want to combine them. Okay, so in order to combine them, I need a common denominator. So the common denominator here would be cosine x times the quantity 1 plus sine x. So if I do that, I end up with cosine squared x over cosine x times the quantity 1 plus sine x plus the quantity 1 plus sine x squared over cosine x times the quantity 1 plus sine x. Alright, once you have a common denominator, you can add the numerators together. Now that 1 plus sine x quantity squared, you need to FOIL that. After you FOIL that, you end up with 1 plus 2 sine x plus sine squared x. So our numerator becomes cosine squared x plus 1 plus 2 sine x plus sine squared x. Now you always want to see if you have any trig identities that show up, and that cosine squared x plus sine squared x, that will equal 1. I'm going to add it to the 1 that's already there to give me 2. So now I have 2 plus 2 sine x over cosine x times the quantity 1 plus sine x. Now I want to turn this into 2 secant x. Now remember, secant x is 1 over cosine x. And here I do have a cosine on the bottom, but I have these other things still here. Now if you notice, I have 1 plus sine x. The top looks similar to that 2 plus 2 sine x. If I factor out the 2, I get 2 times the quantity 1 plus sine x. Now those two, 1 plus sine x is on top and bottom, those cancel out. Leaving me just 2 over cosine x. And we know 1 over cosine x is equal to secant x, so this equals 2 secant x. So this proves to be true. Now the next one I want to look at is cosine x plus sine x times tangent x is equal to secant x. So here, what can we do? Usually cosine and sine, you don't really change those. Tangent, I can change that to sine over cosine. And if I take sine x times sine x over cosine x, that becomes sine squared x over cosine x. Okay. Now I have fractions, so again, when you have fractions, I want to combine them into one fraction. Here the common denominator would be cosine x. If I do that, I have cosine squared x over cosine x plus sine squared x over cosine x. Once you have a common denominator, you add the numerators. So we have cosine squared x plus sine squared x, and that should look familiar. That trig identity is equal to 1 on the top there. So now I have 1 over cosine x, and 1 over cosine x is equal to secant x. So there we go. Now the next one we want to prove is 1 over secant x minus tangent x is equal to secant x plus tangent x. Now I admit when I first tried this one, I tried to change the secant x to 1 over cosine x and the tangent x to sine over cosine, and then try to combine those, but then I ran into a dead end. So now I got to think of something else to do. Now another common thing in trig is using the conjugate. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate of secant x minus tangent x, which would be multiplying the top and bottom by secant x plus tangent x. Okay, so the top will become secant x plus tangent x. The bottom, I need to FOIL. Secant x times secant x is secant squared x. Secant x times tangent x is secant x tangent x. Negative tangent x times secant x is equal to the negative secant x tangent x. And negative tangent x times tangent x is negative tangent squared x. So that middle two terms will cancel out. Secant x tangent x minus secant x tangent x. That's 0. So you're left with secant squared x minus tangent squared x on the bottom. And that is another trig identity in the denominator. That is equal to 1. So I have secant x plus tangent x over 1, which is just secant x plus tangent x. Alright, so we were able to do this one using the conjugate. Alright, hopefully this video helped you understand how to prove trig identities. We want to look for fractions, try to combine them into a single fraction and see if another trig identity shows up or even cancels out. Or in the second case, we use the conjugate. So if this video helped you out, remember to comment and like this video. Thanks.